So what was that doing?
Well, we did a bit of work for an estate called Clapton Park Estate in Hackney about 20 years ago, and we got on well with the resident group. And when we'd finished the job, the maintenance contract came up. So they asked us whether we'd like to just quote for the maintenance contract. I mean, we'd never done maintenance before. We'd always done design and build. And but I was getting a bit fed up with design and build because it's basically construction. Then you put a few plants in, then you start digging holes again. It was, you know, and I'm a plant person, so it was. So I thought, well, you know, we'll give it a go. So we wandered around the estate, you know, naively trying to work out how long it was going to take us to cut this bit of grass, cut that bit of grass. Anyway, we put the contract, we put the quote in, and we won the contract. So, and then once you were there, first of all, it's a serious privilege to actually look after public space. That's the first thing I'd say. It's an amazing privilege to be able to look after places that a lot of people see. And then once you're in there, you think, well, you know, I'm not going to just spray that edge of a railing 3 times a year and for the weeds. I'm going to maybe sow some flowers in there, or you know, here's some Zainab, my Turkish resident, and I know she's desperate to grow food, and we've got a crappy bit of grass down underneath where her flat is that does nothing apart from us push a mower up and down it. So we'll give her a plot to grow food. So I think that's the other thing about maintenance, is because you're there regularly, you can actually have much more chance of understanding what people want, and you can change, you can just tweak what you do slightly to improve the place. That's all you're doing a lot of the time. You know, you're just, okay, we're not going to mow that 8 foot square piece of ground, we're going to give that to Zainab to grow her food in. Simple as that. How much does that cost? Virtually nothing. So that's what we found. We realised, and then of course, as the years went on, we just kept tweaking things and changing things, hopefully for what people wanted. And I suppose ultimately the end of all that meant that, one is that was wonderful was that the residents changed the name of the estate to the Poppy Estate, which was on the back of the flowers that we'd originally sown along the railings, instead of spraying them with herbicide constantly, which was wonderful and lovely. And 2 was they asked us to write the contract when we left, which we did in 2020. They asked us to write the contract for the new, to go out to tender. So that meant, because of course, like we've just been saying, unless you change that system, I'll disappear, or the keen person disappears, and it defaults back. You've got to change the system that says the next guy, whether he wants to or not, he's got to do that. And that's hopefully what happened. And I think that's the only way we're going to change things on any scale. Otherwise, I'm just piddling around in my garden here, and I'm doing one housing estate. Well, good's that? And I mean, not to say there's loads of people doing good stuff, but it's on a smaller scale. If we don't change the system, we can't get it to change on any.
Well, it's those small things that really matter. You know, and when you start looking at a lot of other systems, like if we look at crime and things like that, a lot of evidence is showing that that's due to decline of communities, you know, and community policing, all that type of thing. A lot of things have to go back to communities and on that smaller scale. There's change that's needed on a big scale to lead to that, like we discussed. You know, policies and things need to change, and there needs to be much more support for it. But the benefits are manifest. There's so many.
And if places look like they're cared for, they don't get smashed up. They don't get smashed up. People are happier. Everything.
You have a sense of ownership.
Everything makes sense. I mean, we had it with the signs on our estate. We had signs, old signs, when you went, you know, when you went onto the estate, and they said something like sad, like "You are now entering Clapton Park Estate," as it felt like some sort of ghetto. It was, you know, I mean, what kind of a statement is that? You know what I mean? And of course, that was covered in tags and graffiti, because it just said nothing, did nothing, had no welcoming feeling to it at all. So we replaced the sign with a colourful sign with a map showing where all the green spaces were, with a big "Welcome to Clapton Park Estate, great to have you here," that kind of, you know, no tags, no graffiti. So, you know, I'm not saying it's a cure-all and it's never perfect, obviously, but if you don't give people the respect of actually, you know, saying to them, talking to people in some sort of a normal way, then why the hell should they care? And it's the same as all the signs you got slapped up around housing estates, like no ball games, no fouling, all those pointless signs, because they're just,
which everyone ignores anyway.
They're just shouty signs, and why don't you say, look, you know, kids play on this space, it's quite important, it'd be great if you could keep your dogs off, because, you know, people are using this space. There you go. not going to ever be perfect, but it's definitely going to be work better than slapping one of those signs. So we took them all off because they're a pointless thing. So I guess I mean, I think we're talking more about people now than we are about landscape, but I think that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
it
think
is. But it's a thing that's often missed.
Yeah.
You can come in easily and design these spaces, but it's very easy to forget who you're designing or managing them for.
Yeah.
You're managing them for people and wildlife.
Yeah. And also from your point of view as a designer, you know, unless that decent cared for maintenance is in place, your scheme doesn't work, does it?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
so you have a vested interest as well, don't you? And we all have a vested interest to make those schemes work. Whereas most of the time, there's a big wad of money spent on the scheme itself, and then there's a moment where the mayor comes out and there's a stainless steel spade moment, and they take a pick. Everyone disappears, and then you have a geezer on £10 an hour with a strimmer, and then that might be an exaggeration, but that's what happens time and time again.
In principle, yeah.
We don't put the emphasis on anything in regards to medium or long term thought. So that would be great if we could shift some emphasis onto paying more people to care for a place instead of always about infrastructure. That would be really good, I think.
Yeah, I agree.